Well, good morning and welcome to a very windswept late February school garden where we've been battered by storms over the last week or so. It doesn't feel particularly spring-like, but if you look at that tree just out there, that early flowering blossom tree there, I think it's a Prunus pisardii, the kind of flowering plum. Spring is coming, and because spring is coming, we are looking to sow some tomato seeds. And before we do that, I just wanted to show you something that we do here at the school in terms of how we harvest our own tomato seeds. And before I do this, I'm going to put in a little kind of proviso here, is that although we do this and it's good fun, just going to make a little incision there, and it's interesting to see how the seeds can be harvested. There is a lot to be said for buying commercially grown and produced seeds that are being produced in disease-free conditions, in clean conditions, put into I think it's hermetically sealed little envelopes there. So that's the seed we're actually going to grow. But sometimes, if it's a variety that we can't get by fruit in packets, we do harvest some of our own seed here at the school. And you've just seen some just squirt out of the tomato there. So I've made a little incision in our tomato, and we give it a little squeeze, and here they come. Those pips that we may or may not like when we're eating our tomatoes. Each one of those, of which we've just got a healthy little crop, each one of those will potentially produce a new plant. So from one little cherry tomato, we've got, I don't know, upward of 30 seeds. So that's what we do here at the school with one of our tomatoes that we just cannot get as a plant or as a seed. It's one called ambrosia, which looks very much like this actually. And we collect that seed every year. We would put that somewhere then just to dry out for a couple of days, and put it safe in a drawer, maybe inside a large envelope. We normally do that in the summer, and over late summer, early autumn, and then leave the seed dry and warmish, not freezing cold. And then in the early spring, here we are in kind of February. We actually did some back in January, which had just started to come up. Let me just go and grab that. I should have brought that here first, really. 1 second. There we go. So here's some of our ambrosia. I think it's ambrosia. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we are. That's our ambrosia. You can see that what happens if we haven't really got a warm enough greenhouse to germinate these in the greenhouse. So we do them on a kind of a windowsill here in the outdoor classroom, and you can see they've been bending towards the light. So when that happens, we turn them around every day or so that then they'll bend again towards the light, and then you'll end up with fairly straight stems. So after a couple of weeks, this is what you should expect to see having sown your tomato seed. So that's how we collect the seed if we can't buy it. That's how they look once they've been sown for a few weeks. Let's have a go at sowing some seed now then. So I'm going to move this out of the way, excuse me. There we go. Bring in our pot of compost. Now this is compost that we've mixed some sand in with, because seeds like to have a well-drained soil, generally speaking. And inside this envelope there are some seeds of our favourite tomato, and there they are, the little tiny dried out specks there. You can see I'm just going to spread them out a little bit so they're not all together on the clustered together, and we don't want them clustered together on the compost, so I'll spread them out a bit there. This is our This is our tomato that we love so much, Tomato Sun Gold. It's probably the best flavour. That's a little bit subjective, but generally I think most people would agree it's got an outstanding flavour, very sweet, with a little bit of a tang to it. So I'm just going to check and see if there's any more seeds left inside this little envelope. Sometimes, oh yes, there's some right down in the bottom corner. Let's see if we can get those out. There. So we're just going to get those out onto the compost there, and spread those seeds around. Like we said earlier, we don't want them all in the same spot. Now, we don't want to bury those too much, so I'm just going to get a sprinkle of compost to put on top of there. So we're just going to lightly sprinkle just a tiny little amount of compost on top of there. I'm chucking the compost everywhere. I think I managed to get some in the pot. That's all we need. Lovely. There we go. So that's our seed in. We're going to put a little label in so we know what we've got there. Tomato Sun Gold and today's date. A little sprinkle of water required now, so I'm going to put it in this tray so we don't end up spilling water everywhere. A fine spray on the watering can there, just to give that a little bit of a drink. There we go. You can tell from the weight, you'll get to know this I guess with a bit of experience, and that feels a little bit light still because it's that sandy compost, so I'm just going to give it a little bit more of a drink. There we are. Job done. So now, seed there, slightly covered. Hopefully within a couple of weeks we'll have some seedlings just like that. In the meantime, we're going to put this over here. We've got a little kind of heated, I think they call it a heated windowsill tray, and various things there that we're trying to get to germinate. Because this isn't a heated room, I think if this was a normal kind of windowsill in your house or something, or if you had a heated greenhouse, you wouldn't need this. But in the absence of that, we've got this little heated unit here that's plugged into the main, so you just get a little bit of warmth from this mat. I can feel it there on my fingertips, which will just help these things to germinate. There we go, bit fiddly. Night night, my little friends. See you in a couple of weeks. So there we go. That's how we sow our tomato seeds here in the school garden. Doing this in late winter, early spring, because we're going to be growing these in the greenhouse next door. We'll be taking all those plants out from there in a month or two's time, so that here we are in late February. I would imagine by sometime like early to mid April we would have tomato plants big enough to plant out in there. If we were going to be growing these plants that were just starting, if we were going to be growing them outside, we couldn't put them outside in the UK until late May, early June, so therefore we wouldn't actually sow the seeds for another month or so. Probably sow them towards late March so that they're ready for planting out big chunky plants by the end of May. Hope that makes sense. Any questions, leave a comment or a question on our YouTube channel. Thanks very much. Bye.